Hi everyone, I'm Miranda and welcome to my YouTube channel and happy Friday. So today I'm going to share my to be read pile for spring. It's rather overambitious as usual, but I'm looking forward to chatting about some of the titles that are very high up on my to be read pile and I'm hoping to get to throughout spring. It feels wonderful to be talking about spring today. It's lovely and sunny outside of my bedroom window at the moment, and I've pulled out some books from my shelves that I'm really looking forward to getting to. They either feel very spring-like to me because they're about plants or gardens, but also I've chosen some from my favourite independent publishers, for instance, that came out recently and that I just really want to get to, as well as a few books that are just high on my to be read pile and I want to read as soon as possible. Before I dive into my book pile though, I just had a few bits of news that I wanted to share with you. So first of all, if you're reading the Comfort Book Club choice this month, which is the Unexpected Inheritance of Inspector Chopra, then please do send in your voice message by next Thursday. I think that's the 25th of March. If you want to be included in our discussion video on Friday, I'll link the details below about how to send me a voice message. But yes, please send it in by next Friday. Looking forward to that discussion. And I am going to chat to you about some of the books that I've been reading lately fairly soon, but to be honest, I've just been reading so many Sadler's Wells books by Lorna Hill lately. There are 14 books in the series, so that's just been keeping me busy. March has been a really hectic month anyway, and I've been ploughing my way through her books, which has been a treat because I loved these ballet books when I was young, and I'm writing the introduction to No Castanets at the Wells, which is the third book in Lorna Hill's Sadler's Wells series, and it's being republished by Girls Gone By Publishers in May. That's the expected publishing date, and I'm just about to send in my introduction. So that's been a really fun project that's been keeping me busy. If you're keen to try No Castanets at the Wells, then I'll put a link in the description box so you can pre-order it. It's the first introduction I've ever written for a book, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, that's been a lovely project, but I'm also looking forward to reading some other books now. So I think partly that's also why I'm getting excited about having a to be read pile at the moment. I also wanted to share with you some of these things that I got recently. I didn't have to show these on my YouTube channel, but the stationery company Papier recently sent me a really beautiful notebook. You can see it here. They personalised their stationery, so I have Miranda Mills on mine. There's a notebook and then a daily planner. You can see that. And I thought how beautiful and spring-like these covers are. The planner looks great. I actually can't wait to use this. I think it will keep me really organised. It's got like a weekly overview, habit tracker, lists where you can write like the most important thing to do each day and then make notes and have little to-do lists and things like that. So I love the look of this. And then they also sent some notepads. They asked me who the most sort of influential woman in my life was, and of course I said my mum. So they sent these notepads for my mum, which is lovely. It's got her name on them at the bottom, Donna Mills, and I think they're just stunning. But also they've given me a discount code for 15% off, so that's why I wanted to let you know on YouTube. So my discount code is Miranda Mills, all capitalised, 15. So Miranda Mills 15. So if you want 15% off any stationery, then I thought I would let you know about that. But I just love how floral these ones are. They're really putting me in a spring mood as well, which is lovely. But let's get on to my to be read pile. So one book I really want to get to soon is Latchkey Ladies by Marjorie Grant. I'd pre-ordered this from Handheld Press and I got it a little while ago, but I haven't had any time to pick it up yet. And I've been really looking forward to this one. It sounds fascinating. It's about a few different young women at the end of World War One, and all of these women are either living by themselves or they're sort of sharing rooms, which is why they're called Latchkey Ladies. And they're all sort of career girls to a certain extent, but also they're looking for love. And I think this will be a lot about what life was like for ordinary women at the end of World War One, and how more freedom for women was in sight, but also still really wasn't there yet properly. And it sounds fascinating. I can't wait to read this. I've read some glowing reviews of it too. So I'm very excited about this one and will be reporting back. And then this is an old favourite of mine, The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery. It starts in May, so it's one I'm hoping to pick up in May, if not before. And it's a lovely book of hers, but I haven't had a nice edition of it for ages and ages. And I just recently bought this one, which still isn't the best, I think, frankly, but it still is quite attractive. You can see a close-up here. And this is just one I'm really looking forward to getting to. I love reading Ellen Montgomery in the springtime. I don't know why, there's just something about her books that screams spring to me. I often reread Anne of Green Gables this time of year, but this is also one that I would like to reread as well in the spring. And then I've spoken about the books by Khurram Rahman before. The first in this series is called West of Hounslow, and that was one of my best books from 2021 that I discovered. I so enjoyed it. It's about a young Muslim man who sort of accidentally becomes a recruit of MI5, and it's just really fun, although there are some darker elements to the story as well. But I really enjoyed that first one, and the second in the series has been on my to be read pile for ages, and I just feel like something when the weather starts warming up a bit, I'm hoping to be able to take tea out in the garden and just have something really fun and light to read, and I think this will be a great choice. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to this one. And then I recently got this gorgeous book called Great Literary Friendships by Janet Phillips. I think this is such a great topic to discuss in literature. You think of literary friendships, you think of famous ones like Holmes and Watson and Poirot and Hastings and, you know, just so many others. And I'm really looking forward to reading this and exploring friendships in literature even more. So there are different categories that they're divided into. So there's childhood friendships like Anne and Diana from Anne of Green Gables, of course. There's students and apprentices. There's heart-to-heart adventure. So under that, for example, is Frodo and Sam from The Lord of the Rings, another very famous one. And then there's Hard Times. So I'm just really intrigued by this. I think this will make fascinating reading, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to diving into this. It's one I got quite recently, so I'm excited to read it. Then, of course, April's Comfort Book Club choice will obviously also be on my to be read pile for spring, and it's The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Well, I love reading this book in the spring, in April in particular. I'm really excited to reread this one this year. It's a real favourite of mine and I can't wait to return to it. It's all about women who, for various different reasons, are feeling a little tired of life, and they decide to escape sort of rainy, dreary London and go off to Italy in April. And there they just spend an enchanted holiday and rediscover a love for life, really. And I just love this book, and I'm really excited to return to it, although I'm sure it'll make me wish I were under a wisteria blooming in Italy. But I look forward to just being transported to Italy from my armchair reading this. And then one thing I really want to do is read a bit around a theme this spring. And of course, it's a bit cliched to say plants and gardens in springtime, but I'm really in the mood for that. So I want to read some books that are all about plants and gardens. And I haven't read this one yet. It's Four Gardens by Marjorie Sharp. This has fairly recently been republished by Dean Street Press, and I'm really excited to get to this one. It says, in Four Gardens, the most emotional and nostalgic of Marjorie Sharp's brilliant novels, we meet the lovable Caroline Smith and glimpse the stages of her life through the gardens in which she digs. I love that idea of sort of following someone's life through the different gardens that they've had. And I really enjoy Marjorie Sharp's writing. She's often quite sharp and very witty. This one sounds like it might be a bit of a different style than usual from her, but I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, I can't wait to get to this one. And then a children's book all about gardens and gardening is this one in the Vanderbeekers series, The Vanderbeekers and the Hidden Garden by Katrina Jan Glazer. I've been really enjoying reading the Vanderbeekers books, and in this one, the Vanderbeekers, who's a lovely family of youngsters, they have to create a wonderful community garden. The books are all set in Harlem, and they're so evocative of the New York neighborhood and the sort of lovely communal spirit that I think this will make a really, really lovely springtime read. I think it's set more in the summer, but it fits my garden theme. So this will be a great choice, I'm sure. I always really love the Vanderbeeker books. And then this one has been on my To Be Read pile for a long time. I've read quite a few good reviews of this, so I've been looking forward to getting to it myself. It's called The Fair Botanists by Sarah Sheridan, and it's set in Edinburgh, I think just at the start of the 1900s, 1901 maybe? Oh no, a bit earlier. It's 1822, quite a bit earlier. But it's when the botanical garden in Edinburgh was first planted, and it's all about that garden and also about perfume making, I think. So I'm just really interested to read this one. I love Edinburgh. It's a city that I wish I could visit more. I've only been once, but we're not really that far away from it in Yorkshire, so I'd love to go sometime soon. And I remember the Botanic Garden being really beautiful, so I'd love to return to it, and I think this would be a good book to read to accompany a possible trip to Edinburgh, so I can hope. And then this book was sent to me by the publisher, and it's The Plant Hunter by T.L. Mogford. And I think this book was partly inspired by T.L. Mogford's own family history, which I find really interesting. It says, 1867, Kings Road, Chelsea is a sea of plant nurseries catering to the Victorian obsession with rare and exotic flora. But each of the glossy emporiums is fueled by the dangerous world of the plant hunters, daring adventurers sent into uncharted lands in search of untold wonders to grace England's finest gardens. Harry Compton is as far from a plant as far from a plant hunter as one could imagine, a salesman plucked from the obscurity of the nursery growing fields to become the face that sold 1,000 plants. It sounds really interesting, so perfect for my theme of reading around plants, so I'm looking forward to getting to this one too. And then a few other sort of garden books. There's The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. I have read this before, but ages and ages ago, so I don't remember it very well, and I'd like to return to it. It's set in different sort of timelines, you know how Kate Morton often does. So there's one timeline that runs in 1913, and that's about a young girl who is sort of sent on a ship from Britain to Australia, but when the ship lands in Australia or docks in Australia, she's abandoned and she doesn't really have much memory of her former life. She becomes adopted by an Australian family. But then in 1975, the girl now returns to England, specifically to Cornwall, to try and trace her own history and heritage. And then the other timeline is 2005, when Nell's granddaughter comes to Cornwall, particularly to a sort of estate on Cornwall, to try and uncover the secrets surrounding her grandmother's life. And there's a sort of hidden garden involved in this secret that's on the estate. So I love books set in Cornwall, and I love books about gardens. So I'd like to return to this one again. And then a couple other children's ones. Rumour Gardens, an episode of Sparrows. You know, I've been on a bit of a Rumour Garden kick lately. This is another one that I read as a child, like listening to The Nightingale, which I spoke of in my last video. But again, I don't remember it very well at all, so I want to read it again. And it says, someone has been digging up the private garden in the square. Miss Angela Chesney of the garden committee is sure that a gang of local boys is to blame, but her sister Olivia isn't so certain. She wonders why the neighbourhood children, Sparrows she calls them, have to be locked out. Don't they have a right to enjoy the garden too? Nobody has any idea what sends Lovejoy Mason and her few friends in search of good garden earth. Still less do they imagine where their investigation will lead them, to a struggling restaurant, a bombed-out church, and, at the heart of it all, a hidden garden. I think that sounds like a really good read, so I'm looking forward to returning to this book again. And then this is one I haven't read but really want to. It's The Revenge of Samuel Stokes by Penelope Lively. And I don't quite know exactly how much about gardens this will be, but the premise is so interesting. It says, when Tim Thornton and his family moved into the new housing estate, it certainly didn't look unusual. And finding out it was built on the site of Sharstock Park, a garden designed by Samuel Stokes in the 18th century, hadn't seemed important. Then mysterious things started happening. The washing machine smelt of roast venison. Tobacco smoke came from the television set. A greenhouse became a Greek temple. Was there a simple explanation? The town council and the builders thought so, but Tim and his new friend Jane didn't, and they were determined to find out more, even if it meant tangling with the ghost of Samuel Stokes in the process. I love the idea of being haunted by an outraged garden designer. I think that just sounds really funny, and I mean, I love Penelope Lively. She's written amazing books for both adults and children, and she writes wonderfully about gardens too. So I'm really intrigued to get to this one soon. I'm looking forward to it. And then finally, I was so pleased. I went to a secondhand sort of book fair a few weeks back, and one of the things that I found there was this gorgeous annotated edition of Sense and Sensibility. I was so thrilled. I picked it up like for the price of the paperback, which is amazing because it's in such nice shape and it's beautifully illustrated and of course annotated. And you know how much I love Jane Austen. I love getting annotated editions of my favourite books when I possibly can. They're always so fascinating to read. I fairly recently reread Sense and Sensibility through listening to the audio version of it, but getting this book has made me want to return to the story again. So this is one I'm looking forward to dipping into and reading probably fairly slowly, but over the next few weeks and months, and reading all the annotated notes because I just find those so fascinating. I love doing a bit more of an in-depth study of a favourite book, especially if it's a Jane Austen book. So I was really thrilled to find this annotated edition. But anyway, that's my sort of spring to be read pile. I'm looking forward to getting through as many of these books as possible. I'm also excited at the idea of setting a bit of a theme read for myself, choosing books about gardens and gardening. Obviously there are many more that I haven't mentioned this because they're ones I've already read, but I'm looking forward to getting to some of these that have been on my reading pile for a long time that I know are about sort of plants and gardens, and I think it's just such a fun thing to do to pick a theme like that that sort of matches the season. So let me know if you're inspired to pick a theme for your spring reading coming up, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, or autumnal reading if you're in the Southern. I'd be really interested if that's an idea that appeals to you and maybe what theme you might pick. But let me know what else is on your to be read pile for spring, if we have any of the same books, or you like the sound of any of the ones that I'm reading. And don't forget, if you're in the mood for some stationery, don't forget my discount code of Miranda Mills 15. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face that pops up on the screen over here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead of you, and I'll see you next week with our Comfort Book Club discussion. Goodbye!